first public routes he'd ever spoken to. He hasn't made a presentation on it before.
That's a good mission.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I hadn't realized all the detail behind it. I was very glad to
work there, though. That's quite a curve for that.
Yeah.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And please follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Director Barney.
Present.
Director Coleman.
Here.
Director Deaver.
Here.
Director Morgan.
Here.
And Director Ballantyne here. Mr. Fleck, that all board members are present. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Coleman for the agenda.
All right, a motion by Director Coleman. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
I have a second by Director Barney. Are there any questions on the agenda? And being roll call vote, Director Barney?
Aye.
Director Coleman?
Aye.
Director Deaver?
Aye.
Director Morgan?
Aye.
And Director Ballantyne. Unanimous approval of the agenda. Next, we have community announcements. Members of the audience may make announcements regarding community events. Is there anyone out there in the audience? Hey, Kathy. That mic's got a button.
It's a button.
Thank you.
Yes. I have a couple of announcements. It's great to be back. Number one, Veterans Day is coming up, and we will have a ceremony in Legacy Park. Keynote speaker is Leon Ryder, Mojave resident. Taught junior high here with the Mojave Unified School District for 31 years. And Bill reminded me that he also cleans up the graffiti in town. So good on Leon. But he's a Vietnam veteran, and he's just a perfect person to have speak at Veterans Day. Legacy Park, 11 a.m. on November 11th. 11. Anyway, also in the month of November, on the 20th, third Saturday of the month, Mojave Transportation Museum will have Plane Crazy Saturday. And we're going to have the students come from Tehachapi on the Build-A-Plane project. Don't know if the airplane will be here. Talked to Paul Nafsinger, and they're going to make a test flight down to Mojave and back and see how she does. It is, I wrote it down so I could remember, a Zenith, a CH-750 cruiser. And they bought the kit, and the kids put it together. Pictures of them, first time using tools and learning how an aluminum airplane goes together with clecos and then riveting. And the girl that's going to do the presentation is Megan Salzman. And it's really funny. She writes, I was so shy when I first got involved in this. And Paul said that too. It's for kids, their toy drive. So that will be in November. So everybody come, bring a toy. All I can think of is my kids liked Hot Wheels. So I might bring Hot Wheels and track. Of course, I won't tell you what I used to get after Mark with the Hot Wheels track. But anyway, I'd probably be arrested for a child abuse now. But it worked. And that's the one toy he kept. He still has it to this day. So anyway, hope you can come to Plane Crazy, and please come to Veterans Day ceremony. I cannot guarantee the weather. It's usually really crummy on Veterans Day. The next day is lovely. But our veterans fight for our country in all kinds of weather, hot, cold, windy, whatever. And the least we can do is come out and support them. And it doesn't matter the weather. We do it anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Oh, hit the button.
Yeah, thank you. there any other members of the audience or calling in that would like to make a community announcement? All right, none being. Consent agenda, all items on the consent agenda are considered routine and non-controversial and will be approved by one motion unless a member of the board, staff, or public requests to move an item to action item. Items A, minutes of the regular board meeting of October 19th, 2021, and check register dated October 28th, 2021 for $178,268.53. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you, Bill. Have a second?
Seconded.
Second by Director Barney. Are there any questions on the consent calendar? And being, we'll have a roll call vote. Director Barney?
Aye.
Director Coleman?
Aye.
Director Deaver?
Aye.
Director Morgan?
Aye.
And Director Valentine. Consent calendar is approved unanimously. Next item is action items, adoption of resolution regarding remote meeting slot.
Good afternoon, members of the board. It is that time where it needs to reconsider whether or not, given the current situation with COVID, it desires to renew the resolution, allowing the board to operate under the modified Brown Act rules. We're still in a state of emergency. Social distancing is still recommended. And so it's up to the board whether or not it desires to continue with the modified rules for board meetings. If not, we will revert back to the standard Brown Act rules. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them as best as I'm able.
All right, are there any questions or comments from board members? Or the public? I'd like to make a recommendation that we continue in the present, so.
Yep, it's in your discretion.
All right,
It works fine.
okay, so we need to take action?
Yep, we
All
need
right,
a
can I get a
motion.
motion?
Motion to continue under the modified Brown Act rules in light of COVID.
Second by Coleman.
All right, I have a motion by Director Barney, a second by Director Coleman. Were there any other questions? Okay, roll call vote. Director Barney?
Aye.
Director Coleman?
Aye.
Director Deaver?
Aye.
Director Morgan?
Aye.
And Director Valentine? Aye.
Thank you.
Motion approved. Reports. Financial reports. Carrie?
Good afternoon. These are the financial reports for month ending September 30th. We're finishing up the first quarter of the budget. So we've done the budget to actuals. For overall operating revenue, we're at 28%. So we are a little bit above what we budgeted. And overall operating expense, we're at 23%. So we're actually right on track with all of our expenses at this point. Bank balance increased $135,000. Fuel sales year to date is 172,000 gallons. F-18s have started to pick back up at the end of October, so numbers should come up next month. Elevation Fitness is up to 595 members. And then also just wanted to update you, our auditors have sent over our financial statements ending June 30th of 2021, and they'll be presenting at the next meeting.
Carrie, do you want to talk about EPS for just a minute?
Yeah, so they're the EPS is the only account that's on over 90 days, and they're currently with legal.
So EPS was a tenant here, and they went into a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. They sold their assets to a third party, and so now they are an asset-free business. We filed a claim for the rent, which was a couple $1,000, $2,300 or something.
Yeah.
And now it's up to, is that $5,000 with interest?
Yeah, at this point, the interest is pretty minimal each month.
So they have now filed a motion to dismiss the bankruptcy case as an assetless business. And so we'll probably come back in December or January and ask the board for approval to write off the account as a result of the bankruptcy.
And they're no longer out there.
They are not out here. when they went into bankruptcy, they returned the premises that they were using.
Question, the assets that they were sold, where did that money go to then?
Yeah, so we will wait and see what happens with their motion to dismiss the case.
Okay.
If I had to guess,
Mhm.
I would say most of it went to the accountants and attorneys who represented them in bankruptcy.
Right. Because I would think rent would be kind of up on the payable bills.
Yes.
That
Yeah, normally, in past bankruptcies, we have received some pro rata share.
Okay.
But based on the motion that was filed, it looks like that they have nothing right now.
Okay.
So, and I forget who bought their assets, but it
And what were the assets? What kind of?
was essentially just some equipment
Okay.
and some IP, some intellectual property.
Okay. And do you know the total of all the assets sold?
I know.
I'm curious because legal help and all that is expensive. So
It is. Bankruptcies are very expensive.
okay.
Okay, thank you. Is that it, Carrie?
Yep.
All right, next we have Chris, security reports.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. This report is for time period September 26th through October 25th. During that time, we conducted a total of 4,392 checks to include 1,146 GA hangars, 2,563 buildings, and 683 gates. Responded to 31 building alarms. Found and secured 54 unlocked or unsecured doors. We patrolled a total of 4,276 miles, granted 69 access cards, and had no request for law enforcement in that time frame. That is my report. If anybody has any questions.
I think so.
Yeah.
Sure.
Chris, would you be able to add on to the film shoots and the uptick in?
Yeah, so we have seen a rise in inquiries for filming. So it looks like Hollywood is going to be hopefully making a comeback here at the airport. Just in the last 3 weeks, we've booked 3 different commercial shoots here on the property. So, and it looks like the beginning of next year, so far with inquiries, we're going to hit the ground running pretty hard. So, yeah, we do have that to look forward to.
I've got a question. In the past, we used to advertise in the Hollywood's book of locations.
Mm-hmm.
Are we still doing
We're moving that direction. I know.
that? Okay, so we aren't because
We're not.
okay, we had pretty good luck with it, I think, in the past, and we are kind of a unique location here for.
So I have spoken with some of the location scouts that come out to scout the airport.
Mm-hmm.
And the feedback that I've gotten so far is most of their stuff is word of mouth, but we are searching other avenues as well. And a lot of them that are like non-union will use message boards online to share information back and forth. So that,
Yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
use all means word of mouth is, of course, the best because then you get the details. How do they treat you? Are they friendly? This type of stuff. But I think still, considering this publication would be worthy to
Yes,
take
sir.
a look at.
yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Chris? Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, the due report.
The due report. Mr. Chair, members of the board, good afternoon. Even though I'm the Director of Operations with Security, Tower, and ARF, I wanted to put a little bright spot here. Todd has also tasked me with helping out Lynn Johansson in leases. And so you'll see the first update here with the hangar and building leases. I'm proud to say that the inn is just about 95% full. We have just about everything leased out here on the airport property, including, wait for it, the former Kern County Animal Shelter to a aviation tenant. So we're really excited about that. More to follow on that. But I want to give a shout out to Lynn Johansson for really working hard and getting these new tenants in place. And so it's good money for the airport district. It keeps us solvent, and as well as these film shoots, which are roughly $10,000 a pop or so, which is great. So filming shoots and licensing, Chris Mandorf updated on that. With the tower, we did have our new air traffic control guy by the name of Gary start yesterday, and he is well seasoned, very experienced. He's going to be here for at least a year and a half, he said, which is great. We'll take that. Taxiway Charlie, the last part of the concrete fill-in will be provided done on Wednesday, and then you'll see barricades out there for curing, and those barricades will be removed around 11th or 12th after the concrete is strengthened. To avoid confusion, we've added signage for Charlie 1 and Charlie 2. Charlie 1 is on the west side of the airport, and then Charlie 2 is on the east side of the airport on the approach end of 26. So Charlie 1 is on the approach end of 8. 26 is for Charlie 2. AWS update, that is our automated weather observation system. I think, Jason, we learned that it's going to be in the next few days that this will go back up. Okay, it is back up now. Okay, so we learned. Okay, so the AWS station is back up now, which is great for all of us. Security, we've updated you. We are working with the fire station with Chief Farrar. We're trying to find a window replacement for the window that was blown out during the wind event. And believe it or not, it's very hard to find the second window to insert. They no longer make them; they have to be custom made. So we're working on a couple of bids on that. I know it sounds like an easy task, but they're driving around without a window there. Maintenance and facilities. Let's see if. Okay, so is Floyd online here? He's right here. He's on there. Here. Okay.
Not online. He's hiding.
You were hiding out. I apologize. Didn't even see it. Okay, so that conducts or concludes my report. Floyd's going to provide his report on maintenance and facilities. Any questions for my updates?
Yes, question on the AWAS. Just any thoughts on why it's been a bit intermittent lately? So I've noticed a number of times checking it, but it's not up.
Yeah.
It had wind damage from that sandstorm, so it actually ended up ripping the blocks off the tower. And we had to have the company come out and reran every single wire that ran into the main cable.
I gotcha.
And then after that, everything went back.
Thank you.
Another question about the concrete. What did that entail? The concrete, digging out and putting it back in. What you need to do down there?
What did they need to do down there?
Yeah.
Well, they added some drains. So the concrete around the drainage culverts had to be added. So it's concrete followed by asphalt.
Okay.
And so we were waiting for the drainage drains to be inserted. They were, and then the concrete was added around it.
And were the drains then going between the?
So if I may, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but I do have some pictures that were part of my update. And
That's what I like to
what had happened is there was a supply chain. So this is a different, maybe I'll just give this update real quickly. Okay. I just wanted to show some pictures of, this is the Maston site over off of Finnan. It's not necessarily, it's something that's happening here on the facility, but I'm not purporting that I'm taking credit for it. I just wanted to kind of show that Maston is making progress. This is the new 10,000 square foot metal building over off of Finnan. They've completed their engineer grading, and they've begun work on their foundation and underground plumbing. So just kind of a couple of shots of progress being made over there. So if you have a chance, drive over and take a look. Back to your question, Chuck, about the splash pads. Jason, if you could switch to the other slide. What had happened was it was a supply chain issue with the center inlet section, that grate and center square in the center of the bottom left-hand picture.
Okay.
The underground, the storm drain section, the culvert section was put in prior to pavement when all the underground work was done, but because they did not have those inlets in stock, it was paved over. They came back and they cut them in, installed the inlet, and then they're installing the splash pads. And those are actually pictures from earlier today. So they're pouring concrete today. It will, as Matt said, it will have to set up before any traffic is on it until about the 12th, and then they'll remove the barricades. And those are, I did have, it's kind of hard to see. The upper left-hand corner, they're in the driving lane. They are not in the taxiway. And they're spaced out about every 300 feet down the runway, or taxiway, excuse me.
Do those ties tie into existing drains between them then?
It's a brand new drain between.
Every year. So
Yeah, it does tie into it. Exits the
okay.
exits the AOA in an existing drain, right in front of, directly across from the fire station.
Okay.
And then it goes underground and exits at Flight Systems. But the drainage east and west under Charlie is all brand new.
How much better do you feel it is than it was before?
1,000%. Dramatic.
Good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Up until the splash pads were put in, if you drove down the driving lane, you could actually see a little, I don't want to say staining, but you could see where the water is funneling directly down the driving lane.
Yeah.
So it should be a dramatic improvement.
Okay.
On that note, so the barricades will be removed the 12th. The horizontal boring and electrical work, which is the last piece of physical work out on the taxiway other than removing the hangars, that will take place 11/15, the week of 11/15, and be completed that week. And then moving on, speaking of storm drainage and storm water, we did have an event on October 26th. Facilities was able to take a sample to send to the state. We don't have those results back, but I'm personally happy that that's taken care of for the year. We have to take 2 samples every time we have a stormwater event. So if we get good results this time, then that'll be it for this year. The softball field, we've in the past weeks, we've thatched, aerated, and fertilized it. It did show some signs with the changing of the weather. It was turning brown spots, and it was admittedly looking pretty bad, and I think I'm very optimistic that it's on its mend. There's a lot of new growth, and the brown spots are still there, but there's a lot of new growth. So any concerns, let me know. We changed our approach. We tried to take a little smarter approach to it and do some research, and I'm very optimistic that it's going to come back and look good.
Thank you.
We are facilities in the process right now of replacing the lateral lines on the remaining buildings that Matt mentioned that are going to be occupied next month. It's 11, 12, and 83. So we're replacing lateral water lines, the meters, cross-contamination control, and the regulators for those buildings. We're working on other irrigation repairs throughout the airport, other groundskeeping efforts. They're just ongoing, trash, things like that, addressing the oleanders. So ongoing, if you have any issues, questions, complaints, come and see me. I've got big shoulders. And lastly, I will leave us just with a little statistics. So in the past, so the month of October, maintenance completed, facilities maintenance crew completed 115 work orders. That's 1,335 since January 1st. I would like to give a big kudos to the maintenance team, facility maintenance team. That's 6 people, 6 technicians, 4 maintenance folks, and 2 building service custodial workers completing all that work. So for 3,500 acres, I think that's pretty good.
I think you did a good job, Floyd. I'm pretty critical of the airport, and I tend to watch things. I think it looks very nice.
Good. Appreciate that.
There's always little things, but
I will pass
you
that.
guys do a great job.
Thank you. So, otherwise, any questions? That's my report. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Next we have our CEO, General Manager, Todd.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. And on the note, on the maintenance note, I'd also like to throw out my props to the maintenance folks as well. They're doing a really good job. Will mentioned that we did have one maintenance person go out with COVID today. So hopefully he will have a quick return. On my report, the GA pavement project is continuing to move forward. We're at about 60%, 65% design. This is the phasing of how it's going to be constructed or was being recommended at this time. The light blue in the top left-hand corner will be the area that was completed first. Then will come south. The dark blue area will be next. The green area will be third. The yellow area will be fourth, and they'll go back and knock out the taxiway, the pink area, and the orange area to complete the project itself. That will also involve, in addition to pavement, they'll be doing a lot of drainage work. Also, in that blue area, there will be a spot, and you can't see it on this graphic, but there will be a Also a place that's going to be prepared to accommodate the trash dumpster as well as a waste fluids station, if you will, where the tenants can dump your waste oil or whatever it may be, hydraulic fluids, and we'll get it sucked out on occasion as we need to. I think it's going to be very helpful for everybody. And a lot of these recommendations have come out of the gatherings and the barbecues we've had with the general aviation community. It's been very useful to get for communication purposes. Next slide, please.
Todd?
Yes, sir.
Where's that waste facility going to be?
In that light blue area.
Okay. Like where the dumpsters are?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I make a comment real quick?
Of course.
I had mentioned to you, I was going to share with you some pictures. I happened to be out there in this area when we had that rain that I think a week ago. It was a light rain, and there was significant standing water flooding in the teal area, the purple area, and the green area between numerous hangars. And so I was going to share it with you, and I don't know if that'll be useful to the engineers at all for planning the future drainage improvements. But I got some pictures.
Yes, please. That would be great. Very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Next issue, or the next thing we'll talk about is the General Aviation Hangar project, which is we're wrapping into a lease with a third-party developer. This is the area we're looking at leasing to them. Almost 2 acres. It's like 1.65 acres. And this is just a layout that we've put together. We will be working closely with the third-party developer to determine what the actual layout of the hangars would be, how many specific sizes and things of that nature. That information will come from our, in addition to myself, Matt, our existing tenant base. Any recommendations anyone has, we're glad to take that information into account as we make these decisions moving forward. We always want to do what's best for the general aviation community that we have. And I think the best way of doing that is communicating directly with them in most cases. Next slide, please.
Real quick.
Drawing down, probably in the middle of December of this year, 21. The FAA has asked us to rebid the project, which will occur in the January-February timeframe. We will award the project no later than March 25th of 2022. We will then move forward with coordinating with our tenants who need runway 1230 to make sure that we work around anybody's schedules that will potentially prevent work from occurring. We do not want to interfere with any testing campaigns that are being planned. So we try to be very open and very out front with our tenants regarding the proposed project. I'm thinking that we'll be able to mitigate any issues that might be occurring. The Airport Capital Improvement Program, 2022 to 32, I'll be presenting that to the board at the next board meeting. We currently been in the process of working with FAA to establish I won't say a concrete or permanent list of projects, try to keep it as fluid and movable as possible. However, one thing I have found this week is that FAA has made it very clear that they will not allow us to change the projects that are in the next 2 years. In other words, 2022 and 2023, I cannot modify those. My goal, or one of the things I really wanted to do, was bring that apron, the General Aviation Apron project we talked about just a while ago. I want to bring that up and put that in 2022. FAA will not allow me to do that. So I'm looking at some other alternatives because we can't wait. That project has got to go forward. I have learned that the estimate for that project is about $1.6 million. But even that, which is $1 million less than what they thought it was going to be originally, that's still a lot of money. But at the same time, we cannot wait. This is something we have to go forward with. So more to follow on that. From a development perspective, working with a company right now. They're a vertical takeoff and landing company. I will not mention any names. I can't. But they're looking to develop here a 50 to 100,000 square foot facility that will be used for assembly, and they will also be doing testing here on site as well. Had conversations with Harold Smith regarding fueling and the potential for adding another fueler. None of us feel like we can currently support or have the need for another full-time fueler. However, we are looking at possibly bringing on a part-time fueler to cover the weekend positions and also do some stuff throughout the week, maybe some maintenance, help Floyd in the maintenance department as well. Next slide, please. Society of Experimental Test Pilots conference was last week. It was an incredible conference from my perspective. If you are someone who is in aviation, aerospace, or you're a pilot, and it doesn't matter what level of pilot you are or not, it would be very beneficial to anyone that has a desire to know more about aviation and aerospace or needs to know more. The amount of information I walked away with was, my ears were smoking when I walked out of the place. My brain, it was full. It was incredible. It really was. Great event. I'd also like to mention Director Diane Barney and Director Bob Morgan. They were there as well. I think they could share the same testimony as I have. I look forward to this event next year. I really do. CalSpan, working with CalSpan very close now. We will be having a conference call with those folks, I think on Thursday. What we're looking at is right now the way it's being put together or shown to us is they're estimating that the cost of or the value of this wind tunnel is approximately $75 million. $60 million was going to cost to refurbish it, another $15 million to provide the infrastructure. They're looking for an in-kind contribution of $75 million over multiple years, 3 to 5 years. That, from my perspective, we can't do that. There's another way to skin that cat, I believe. There's some other alternatives we're looking at. And maybe establishing the lease or setting the lease up differently in order to make this less than a one-sided type of agreement. More to follow on that, but that project, we are moving forward. We're responding to their RFP, and we've had good talks with them so far. Their default position right now is to leave that facility in Buffalo, New York, should no one qualify or no one want to take that facility. We would really like to have it here. It would really help our tenants. It would be great for our tenants, and that's the first thing I have to look at. However, at the same time, financially, based on what I'm seeing right now, it's a stretch to develop a business model to meet those metrics and do it in a successful manner over a short period of time. So, it's like solving Rubik's Cube. You just keep trying until something works. And so we'll be looking at several different alternatives going forward, and never say never. As Carrie mentioned earlier, we've gone through the process, looked at the revenues, expenses, budgets to actuals. We're looking good, 4% above on revenue, 3% under on expenses. So those trends are going the direction we wanted to go for sure. Craft Aerospace is another company we had a meeting with in the previous week to 2 weeks. Next slide, please. They are a vertical takeoff. There you go. Vertical takeoff and landing company as well. This is a picture rendering of their aircraft. They are also looking to come here and do at a minimum the flight test campaign. Preferably, they would be doing assembly and manufacturing here as well. But it looks like they will be coming here probably in the latter stages of 2022 to conduct testing with this aircraft. The way it works with all those engines is they use their flaps, and when they extend their flaps, it provides the airfoil, if you will, that will allow them to go almost vertical, completely vertical. So this will be a good project. Looking forward to working with these folks. They've already started the process of establishing a COA here, which is a altitude reservation, basically, for them to conduct special operations. So that's going to be a good project for us, and should be a pretty good revenue generator as well. Next slide.
I presume that's an electric powered airplane?
Yes, it is. That is.
All the props was a giveaway.
Yes, sir. You got it. Right.
Great.
We're also working with a company called Goldpoint Homes. I'd like to welcome the folks from Goldpoint, Mr. Alvin McCurdy and his team here today. One of the things we've heard consistently from our tenants is the need for short-term housing, as well as a need for amenities such as a place to get a cup of coffee, maybe a place to get something to eat, pet daycare, child daycare, so on and so forth, those types of things. The folks at Goldpoint are considering this 7.5 acres is currently at the front of our property. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Alvin McCurdy. He's going to present to you at this time his recommendations for developing those amenities that we've spoke about. Thank you, Alvin.
Good afternoon. I just push. Oh, okay. Thanks for having us here. Obviously, Todd has told you who I am, Alvin McCurdy. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Goldpoint Homes, and I do the secretarial duties also. So the question comes up, who are we? Our vision is to create a community within a community. You can see where our mission is. You can see where our values are. Obviously, ethical, legal, and morality is important to us collectively as a group. We did some work on. Can you move the slide? We, as we had a conversation with Todd, we did a little background on Mojave, and this is just some information. I'm quite sure you all know it. We talk in terms of the population. We look at the median age, income, ethnicity, work commute, median property value, just some basic information that, again, it might reiterate what we're about. I'm sorry, what your city and area is all about, and we want to talk about how we can bring success to the facility, and at the same time create some jobs within residents of Mojave. Next slide. Obviously, we also looked at the hotels, motels here in the area. We looked at Tehachapi. We looked at Lancaster. We thought that they were a little further away, so we tried to stay focused. California City is fairly close. I am well aware of California City. Part of what I do as a hobby, my off time, is I work with an organization called Kairos to bring the Word of God into the prisons. So we're in the California City prison up to about 1.5 years ago, obviously with COVID. I also, in addition to that, every week we help these prisoners, residents as we would call them, put together a 5-year plan. So when they came out, they knew what they were going to do, as opposed to, okay, it's time for me to come out now, what do I do? And how do I move forward? And how can I be successful? So we taught them leadership classes every Tuesday. So I've had an opportunity to eat in different places, whether it was Lancaster, whether it was here. Didn't spend a lot of time in Tehachapi, but California City, Mojave, and Lancaster I know a little bit about. We also looked at the restaurants. And what we want to say is we're not in competition with any restaurant, any hotel, or any motel. We are looking to provide a service called executive housing. And that service is a little more long-term. It's a different set of needs that people that are in the long-term service are looking for. It's more than a room. I'd like to have something that reminds me of home. I was telling somebody earlier about one of my travels. I've had global responsibilities, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. My bags in Europe followed me a week behind me, or I'm sorry, a couple of days behind me, and I did this for like a week and a half, only to find out that the last day I was leaving Prague, and my bags showed up. Put them on an airplane, and we were behind schedule. Finally get to Denver, only to find out that we literally had to run to catch the plane to get to Ontario because the plane in Orange County had been canceled. And they said, we won't be able to get your bags. So the next day I had to go and get my bags from Ontario. So I really understand this whole need. I didn't have clothes. So somebody had to help me get underwear, get a toothbrush, get razors. I mean, it sounds stupid, but you're on a tight schedule, and you need all the help that you possibly can get from an external environment. And our job is to try to help them. It's a little more than what you would normally get from a hotel or a motel. So we're not competing against them. We're not trying to take business. We're trying to enhance it. We would look at the hiring process. People from Mojave would get first choice. Next slide. Who are we? Santonio Martin here. He's our CEO, Chief Entertainment Officer. He 20 years as a mortgage real estate partner, investor. He was a CEO of 2 companies. He's a consultant right now also with a company that does acquisitions and financing up to $500 million here, actually across the country. He is big in the homeless and affordable housing crisis and with things that we're doing there. He brings management, marketing, and PR skills. Donald Tran, who's right here, he's our CFO, CTO. He's a co-founder. He was a chief technology officer for a sister company of LendingTree. He has done mortgage technology solutions. He's developed systems development and implementation. He's been associated with Microsoft, Toshiba, TRW, Mattel. Donald also led a raise for $30 million from Goldman Sachs during his career. Come to me. I've been an officer of publicly traded companies. Some of the companies, P&G, Danaher, Natural Alternatives, FRS, Miller Brewing Company. My responsibilities globally have been in operations, sales, customer service, and supply chain. We got Jeff McCurdy over here. He brings 10 years of managerial experience in the food industry. So as we expand out and we do things, we rely on him. But more importantly, he's able to see these existing opportunities. He's able to see things that, maybe we might overlook, and he gives us an insight from a different millennial perspective. So it's been really good as we look at the housing and workforce markets. And he's our future. He is our future. Our architect is Pedro Newbern. 30 years of designing functional creative programs. He's worked with EPA. He's worked with utility providers, well respected within the industry. Next slide. And I'm going to try to move through this fairly quickly. And I'm going to ask you the whole questions, and then at the end, we'll just bring them on because these guys are going to answer all the questions. I just get to do the talking. Who are we? Pinnacle Construction is one of our partners. They're a construction company based out of Louisiana. They've done projects across the country in homes, apartments, manufacturing facilities, commercial facilities, and campus dorms. We're building a 150,000 square foot manufacturing facility in California City, and they're going to be the ones who are going to actually build that building for us. Sunlight Energy, we have done a JV with them. Their process is installation and manufacture of solar panels, charging stations for electric vehicles. The thing I'm most proud of that they did is they put the solar panels on President Reagan's library. So it's pretty cool. Just a little thing with me. I'll talk a little more about this joint partnership as we go further. When we look at our funding opportunities, we have relationships with many people in bonds, short-term capital, tax credits. But if we're looking at just straight out investor funding, Settlage Capital, they've got about $150 million at their disposal. Tilden Properties based out of San Francisco, 20 years of operating apartment ownership, $4 billion in assets under management. They and Settlage, we have discussed this project with them. There is significant interest on their parts to participate in this project if we move forward. Next page. Our attorneys, Rachel Rosner, Lisa Pastor, enough said. Novogradac and Company are our accounting firm. And California GoBiz, they are part of California Competes. I don't know if you know about them. They provide tax credits for companies in California. This last period, they had $153 million available, and they had requests of $750 million. Goldpoint Homes is one of those companies that has been awarded tax credits from the state of California. We signed the documents. I can't go into the numbers right now because it's not official, but we've signed all the documents and it becomes public. I guess it's public now, but it becomes public on Thursday of this week. So congrats, good job, guys. Why are we here? We're looking to do a 25-year lease, 50-year lease, whatever works for the board, with some renewable options to do a few things. We want 7 acres of land, and Todd laid that out as to what we're looking at. We want to provide housing to the contractors here at MASP. We want to provide office space, conference rooms, concierge service to the people that are staying in these rental units. On-site catering availability upon demand. And as Todd had talked earlier, we'd look at some type of daycare for the kids, and then pet care is big. That is a big deal. A lot of people don't realize that, but it is. We have a little dog at home, and my wife thinks that because it's her dog, I should walk the dog every day. So I mean, it's important. A simple thing is shuttle service. Something as simple as looking at picking people up at the airport when they're coming in and dropping them back off again. So it's just something. Again, we're not competing. We're providing a service that's not on a consistent basis happening right now. So if you go here, when we look at that 7 acres, this is what we're looking at. You're ready to see. These would be the rental units here, 56. That's what we would start out with. This would be the standalone building here, and we've got the landscaping and what have you. It was to give you an idea as to what it could look like. This is kind of what we'd like to do. We'd like to tighten this up a little bit so we could put additional rental units, if necessary, in this 7 acre space. And right now we're saying we're coming off the business 58. It could be over here. It could be over here. So don't get locked into that. It's more illustrative for you guys to see what we're talking about. Next slide. Okay, so we look at the actual rental units themselves. We would build a 686 square foot facility. Building for each one. We had 56 of these. It would be 1 bedroom plus an office. Again, somebody wants to continue to work. They've got an office there to do their thing. 1.5 baths. There'd be obviously maid service. access to gym facilities on site. We could do the gym, or we could utilize what's here. It's how we can work through what's what. We're not here to as I said, compete or push somebody out. We just want to get the best that we possibly can get. Concierge service on demand. Some of that could be somebody wants groceries. Somebody wants dry cleaning. There's a lady there. She needs to get her hair done. Where do I go? It's the small things that you really don't recognize until you move across the country. We moved from Ohio to here. And, all of a sudden my wife's got this list of all the things that she wants. I don't know, and so you got to talk to somebody at work or whatever. Next slide, please. This is the building. Again, this is a concept. We would look at, one second here, to go back one. Okay, this building would be 3 floors. We have a restaurant facility. Each floor would be 6,000 square feet. Right now, what we're saying is this would be the entrance into the office. This would be the entrance into the restaurant. We would isolate the restaurant from the office area because from a security standpoint, the last thing we want on the second and third floor is for people from the restaurant kind of migrating around and walking out. Everybody wants to go and look, and we seal that off with security. But again, we can move stuff around. It's a concept. It's something for you to look at. Second and third floors would be office space. We need to name the building, and that's something we'd probably come back to you guys and say, what should we name it? Each floor would be 6,000 square feet. We'd have conference rooms on the second and third floors. And again, as we looked at Mojave would have the priority. On the first floor, we would also have a small store so that the people in the rental units, if they want toothpaste, if they want mouthwash, if they want aspirin, they'd be able to get that. Next slide, please. Okay, when we look at that standalone building, obviously in the restaurant, we would have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, first floor, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., recognizing that if you came in there for lunch and dinner, you would, it's not a bar, you gotta order food in order to order alcohol. And you'd be able to have alcohol at 10 o'clock. And then from 10 to 12 or 1, we'd look at a limited menu, maybe some fried stuff, chicken wings, mozzarella sticks, a little outdoor patio, and they could have beer. And then at that point in time, we would shut it down. Be open to the public, contractors, and base personnel. 20% discount to military personnel in uniform, 10% discount on military and contractor personnel showing ID, and that's for the food only. If they ordered alcohol, like a beer or a drink or wine, it would be at full price. We're looking and we're having conversations about some type of a daycare facility for 25 kids, and at the same time, we do something with the pets. So again, we're in the discussion phase. The drugstore or convenience store, 200 square feet, 24 hours a day. Again, you want some water. You want a beer. You could buy that and take it back to the rental unit and do your thing. 3 conference rooms. Again, we look at second and third floor. How we would break it out, we'll take a look at that. 1 room would be small, 20 by 22, 32 by 31, 45 by 50. So people would be able, if you want to do a small celebration at Christmas time or a birthday or whatever, you'd have a room that you could do your thing. Exercise fitness center, which I talked about earlier, that's up in the air. A small business center. We have somebody on each floor to help out the office space. and everything associated with it. Roughly 10 offices, roughly looking at 12 by 14. But again, if a tenant came in and said, hey, we want this amount of space and we want to configure it this way, that's fine. Solar energy will be the primary way that we would run the buildings. Electricity would be the backup. We'd also look at charging stations. Next slide. We are doing, as I showed you, a joint venture with Sunlight. The new name, we're in the process of doing that with the Secretary of State, with the Green Community Lands Energy Company. In our phase 1 of this process, we will install 20 charging stations for the standalone building and the actual rentals themselves. If we need more, we'll add more. We can go from there. We will install solar panels on the top. We will have some parking protection. You know how I don't know if you've gone to Kaiser Permanente, you see how they have the slanted roof. We'll have the solar panels there. We'll have solar panels on top of the standalone building, and we'll probably look at them on the units themselves. And we are going to use anti-reflective and glare glass for panels, so we don't get in trouble with somebody flying an airplane. It doesn't become an issue from the sun.
The people, I think they're going to have trouble hearing me without being.
Ouch. So I should just take this with me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Phase 2, we'll look at 50 to 100 additional rental units based on demand requirements. We'll add, as I said earlier, additional charging stations and solar panels as we need to. Next slide, please. Okay, as you look at this whole thing of executive rentals, you know, when we look at conferences, things of that nature, there are a lot of companies now that are not going to hotels, they're renting homes, and they're bringing their whole team into a home. And that's where they are. They hire a cook for a week, and it's just a simple process. They're together. That's what this will do. Again, this is a picture of one of our homes, but this is something that we could actually put on site, something along these lines. Obviously, we'd have to talk to the customers to find out what they want. But this is a garage, and then you got the 3 bedrooms. We'd have a small boardroom where they could do meetings, they could eat, 2.5 baths, the same features as the current rentals. And again, back to that point of food, they can pick up the phone, call a restaurant and say, hey, look, this is what I want. I want this for lunch, we want this for dinner. And they just bring it over. It'd be upon demand. So trying to meet the needs of the customer. Next slide. Okay, in a summary, we just when we look at phase 1, we need to sign an LOI or MOU and finalize a lease agreement between MASP and Goldpoint Homes. We need to then move into the drawings and permits and if we need approvals from MASP, we'll get them from you guys, and then we'll go to Kern County. And obviously, we've got to go through that whole process. We are in the process with the California Department of Corrections to lease a 3,000 square foot facility in a Lancaster prison. And back to my prison ministry, I'm trying to mimic my behavior, the behaviors that I need to show. I need to put that out there. We're going to teach them how to build homes, how to do construction right there in the facility. So it's moving along. We should be ready to sign late December, early January to lease this facility for 10 years. We are looking at hiring somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 people initially, and we'll see where it takes us. It's across 2 shifts, 2 6-hour shifts, and our goal is to take them from knowing nothing to being able to become a journeyman. And then what that does for us is we got a factory at that point in time in California City, we can offer them a job because we know what we have. The construction would begin at Lancaster. They won't construct the whole thing, but they'll do components. And we'll do the assembly somewhere in the general area, short term. We'd open the facility rentals, open the multi-purpose standalone building with the restaurant, the office spaces, and the child care. Phase 2 would put us in a position to look at drawings, permits, approved by MASP in Kern County. But that's, as we look at this additional rental units, that's a decision that collectively we need to make. If it's being utilized, these current units, then it would warrant us to move forward. If not, then maybe we push it out until there's a need to do that. And the same thing on the executive rentals, it would be a decision that we would collectively talk through. And then finally, we would open the facility, the rentals, the executive and the normal rentals. Last slide. This is the timeline. I know it looks aggressive, but from what I've heard, aggressiveness is what's needed. You have a need here, and I think it's an opportunity to show the world, what Mojave is all about. I mean, obviously, you've done some great things here, and I'm saying that it's upon us to make sure that we move it, and you can see the process. November, December, our funding secured in February, and then we just move right down the line. That's the presentation in a nutshell. I'll open it up to Q&A.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I have some concerns. I like the idea of private investment in a multi-purpose building. I think that's something that the airport could use. I think I'm really squirmish about the idea of developing residential on the airport from a compatibility standpoint. Usually that's a no-no. We've got heavy industry there. It's residential usually becomes an obstacle to the success and support of an airport. There's no question there is a need for housing in the area for large aerospace projects where there's temporary housing, but I don't think putting it on the airport is necessarily the right solution. I'd like to open that up to discussion with some of the other board members.
I'd like to make a comment. That property that we're looking at, back when the Marines and Navy were here, that was all housing. It was Quonset. My wife lived in one of those horrible things for several months, but it was housing at one time.
Well, I get that, but I think the concern is military residents are not the same as other residents.
No, I agree.
And I think the plot of land you're looking at for these rentals, and they are just intended to be rentals, not full-on residences.
That's correct.
Transitory for employees, right? It's about as far away from the active areas of the airport as the Comfort Inn, Mariah, right?
Right.
It's right about next there. So just to kind of cage where exactly this would be. But yeah, Bob, similar to what you're talking about, I know we've talked previously about having child care at the airport, and a part of the finding was, it's an airport. Not sure we can really do that in our footprint. But yes, I agree. There's definitely a need for daycare dogs, another food option. Honestly, having a drugstore where I can go buy cold medicine without having to drive 30 minutes away, just as somebody who lives here would be pretty nice. I do have questions about, so we talked about the restaurant. Would that be something in-house catered, or would you look to somebody local to start something up? Would you pull in a chain? What are your thoughts on the restaurant and the drugstore?
We look at all the options. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't, if there's somebody here locally that that you guys would recommend, we would definitely be interested in having a conversation with them. We'd also want to look at some type of a chain from a credibility standpoint, from an attraction standpoint, because again, we're bringing business into Mojave. We're not locked in one way or another. as far as the restaurant goes. So we're open to any and all suggestions.
And would you be open to working with the gym if they wanted to expand the
Absolutely.
facilities? Like, hey, we could use some racquetball courts. We can't put racquetball courts in the
Absolutely.
current location.
Absolutely.
Something like that.
Absolutely. We just talked. We just had that conversation.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
But we felt as though we had to bring it forward
Mm-hmm.
because I know people are going to want to do that. I mean, it's something as simple as a hot tub. You know, to sit out and smoke a cigar in the afternoon, in the evening, after you've done something. You know, maybe we put a couple of hot tubs out. I don't know all the answers, but one thing I do know, and I know it very well, it's about customer service and it's about the relationships. It's about understanding what the needs are and doing everything that we possibly can to ensure that we're meeting their needs legally, ethically, and morally. And once we've done that, hopefully that translates into additional business for this MASP, because that's what we're trying to do, is to hold on to the business that you have and continue to improve, increase, and move forward.
You know, one thing a lot of people in Mojave don't understand about the motels, our motels are not catering to tourists. They're catering primarily to people that work here, that work at borax, that work in the cement plants, people who come in here temporarily. And we have a whole housing unit out by the old golf course that was built with that in mind. It's probably one of the nicest neighborhoods in Mojave.
Have you completed a project like this somewhere, or would this be your first project?
Our partners have completed projects like this.
But this group is...
Yeah, that we're associated with. You know, as we talked about Pinnacle Construction, as we're talking about the Sunlight Solar Energy, as we talk about the architects, they have done these projects. So therefore, we've partnered with them. So we've got that experience.
But this will be this group here.
This will be this group right here, yes. We're meeting with California City tomorrow. We're building a factory in California City.
Okay. Have you done any demographics on the airport about tenant needs and stuff? Have you talked to any of them other than maybe through Todd?
Not yet. That's one of the next steps.
I guess my big question is who are your customers? I mean, they can be from a lot of places. Are they the guy driving down the road that says, "Oh, I want to go in there for the night"?
We're not looking at that.
Okay.
That's not what we're looking at. No. We're looking at people that are here. Obviously, it's limited as to what Todd can tell us. I mean, we're not security clearance and all of that, but I think that from what people that I've talked to that have been associated with MASP have said there is a huge need for housing.
There absolutely is. I'm a native here.
And you know, and that's obviously we heard that. We've come to you with what we think is a viable solution.
So your rates would be daily, weekly, monthly?
It would be long-term rates. You know, we'd probably be looking more at weekly, monthly, annual. I mean, there would be occasions where somebody says, "Hey, look, we got 2 more people at the last minute that are coming in. Can you guys do something?" But we would run it like an executive housing entity.
How much longer is this going to go on?
Actually, I had a question for Bob. You there, Bob?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm interested in your concerns about having this on the airport. What can you be a little more specific about?
So what I wanted some discussion about, I think, is, and maybe Diane brought up a good point. I think the issue is when you have homeowners in very close proximity to the airport, you run into, unintended consequences, like Santa Monica, for instance. You look at that, where, we've got heavy industry like railroad wheel repair and fighter jets taking off daily, and the next thing you know, people are making noise complaints, and then then you lose the airport before you know it. It becomes a conflict. Now, rentals with people that are working in aerospace or other heavy industry in the area, they're not going to be complaining, but I think homeowners would. So I think Diane kind of addressed that when she asked rhetorically, isn't this all rentals? Right. So maybe it's not as big a concern as I thought. So is that kind of what you wanted to?
Yeah, I agree with you. But I didn't understand it to be a homeowner, so I guess
No,
right there.
Well, I just heard residential, and I'm like, and then also there's a question of whether we, whether we're going against any basic tenets of FAA grant money, by developing residential property on the airport. It's got to be a compatibility thing. I don't know if this is in a gray area or not.
That's a pretty good point.
Yeah, it's kind of a gray area, both with the FAA and with the county. The airport has a precise development plan with the county, and I don't believe any of it includes housing. I think it's all industrial and aerospace.
Yeah.
And commercial. And so we would probably have to go back to the county and amend that precise development plan, which is a process. I don't think November 2021 is going to be the time frame for an LOI or December 2021 for a lease, given the steps that we would have to take in order to even see if the county would let us do it. So
right.
But we do have those restrictions already with the county. So we would just have to revisit that. And we'd have to get Mead and Hunt on board to probably address some of those issues.
And I'm not concerned about the precise development plan. I've worked enough with Lorelei and Floyd, and we've made our share of changes.
Well, and we brought that question up to you. So you are correct. The planning is open to a planning commission of the zone.
My concern is the FAA point in particular. We have to be very careful. I mean, obviously, you can have a hotel on an airport. We see it at a lot of airports. There's a lot of hotels on airport property. So, that's, it can't be permanent housing. We had a situation here a few years ago where I think a Korean flight school was coming here, right, Lynn? And they were going to be providing dormitories, and those dorms were going to be causing an issue. And I think that was an FAA issue, right? So that's something we have to get some clarification on. Okay, that's fine.
Excuse me, I think I'm Antonio, the entertainment officer. I think that, thank you, Alvin. I think the issues that we're addressing is one of the reasons why we're here, because we want to get some type of feedback, and there's a lot that has to go into us as a company to decide if it's feasible for us. So we're going to do we had talked to Todd about possibly meeting with some of the tenants that are already here. We know we have to go to the county. We understand the permitting process, the planning commission. So we have that history to understand that. What we wanted to do today was to be able to present to the board and get great feedback, and all these questions and answers, I think is very helpful for us as a company to decide if it's feasible for us to do the projects. So we just wanted to have an open ear and to see what possibilities, if it's designed as a hotel, if it's designed as whatever it may be. We understand it. We just want to make sure that we follow within the guidelines and get the board's blessings. I think that's all I have. Do you have any other questions? Because you're looking at financially for us as a company. You're looking at the type of building that we want to do, and we have options because we can produce our own homes and apartments. So the more information we get, the more we're able to financially look at how do we structure these deals where it's feasible and that we can come up with something that's really great for Mojave. And for us as a company, I want to address the elephant in the room. The companies that we've affiliated with and associated with, you can check their websites, and I always tell people, Google it. And there's enough information out there about the companies that we are partnered with and the history. As a group, this will be our first project on a Air Force base. So what we're looking at as a company, we're looking at also to make a name for ourselves, to actually have an opportunity to come here with the experience of the groups and people that we have on our staff to come in and give us an opportunity to do something in the aerospace industry because we are looking for referrals. And as the CEO, as Alvin says, I'm looking also for our company to make money and to grow. And so, go ahead.
Sorry. I had another, I'll let you finish first. Sorry.
So I think for us as a company, this would be a great fit for us. And we've got other projects that we're working, like Alvin mentioned, the factory in California City where we were awarded money from the state or tax credits from the state that validates us as a company. We put this together as a company. And so I think that in the near future, if we could have dialogue and let's work through the issues, because I really would love to have this project as one of our first projects as a group together for the aerospace. Your question?
Yeah, I have a question. Are you affiliated with New York Life Insurance?
No, I'm not.
So you're not the same as Goldpoint Partners?
No. We're Goldpoint Homes, LLC.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Question I have is, you talk about the aggressive schedule and everything. How much financing do you have in place now, investors and all that? I mean, is it a clear sailing to build it with financing behind building this impressive facility?
Great question.
Yeah.
And that's the part that we needed to come and do a fact finding. We needed to find out the demand. We needed to find out from the board because a lot of it's going to be determined on how or what type of building we put. When you look at the drawings from our architect, we have the ability to do prefab modular. And I don't know if any of the board members or anyone familiar with prefab modular. Right now, that is actually where the state and a lot of the United States is going towards because the technology, it reduces the time and also the cost. And where we have our schedule is that the inspectors will come to our facility and inspect our homes. And so depending on what we get from the city, what we get from planning, will determine about how much the building will cost. And for the financial aspect of it, we have Tilden and we also have Settlers Capital that we've talked to that are willing to invest. But there are certain things that they needed to see. And we have to do our due diligence. So it's not a smooth selling, but they are right to the point where they're willing to talk to us.
And when you just mentioned city, does that mean Mojave?
Well, Mojave is not a city, right? It's unincorporated.
Well, what city would you get the?
I mean, Kern County.
Oh, Kern County.
Yeah.
The county money.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious if, November is the first date of something happening. What could you do in the next 6 months? I mean, do you have money to start building like immediately, or do you have to still raise that, give a presentation, say, hey, we want to build this at the airport. We need money though.
Right. So what we've done in any investment endeavor that we do, we actually have a syndication. And I don't know if you're familiar with syndication is. A syndication is a group of investors that you can actually talk to before you actually come in and ask for money. And so Settlers Capital has, as Alvin mentioned, has $150 million at their disposal. And they're tied to a large REIT called AMCO out of Denver. So we've had open discussions. We don't have anything in writing. I would not mislead you to tell you that. So we're not talking, we're looking at actually getting certain things in place so that we can present it to the investors. But the door is already open. Those conversations have already been had.
By the way, speaking of prefab houses, the houses I was talking about out by the golf course, those were all factory-built houses except for the garages. And I wouldn't have known it unless somebody had told me. But it's
absolutely.
You might get a chance when if you're going back towards L.A., there at Camelot Boulevard, take a right and then go down and keep looking to your left, and you'll see this little settlement out there. It's about 80 homes, and it's a really nice place. I think we should listen to these folks. I think they've got a good idea, and everything doesn't end up being built the way they talk. You talk about it when you first get the idea. We all work together and kick ideas around. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But it's something unique, and I think it's something that it will fill a need in this community.
Any other, I'm sorry, Alvin, I didn't mean to take.
I'll make a comment. I've been on the board for quite a few years, and just the message that's always carried through is we don't have anything for rent out here. We are literally, in fact, we stated 95% full, including the county vacated the dog pound, and it's even limited. That's how desperate we are out here for facilities of many sorts, including you retired too. But my question is, would you, or within your realm of development, do larger buildings? There's a huge need out here. We have land and we have customers, but we don't have places to put these customers.
Well, absolutely. And
I think there's a huge opportunity there.
And that's what we looked at. I mean, we're not looking to get wealthy or get rich on this deal. What we're looking to do is to actually set a standard, to actually get an opportunity to work with Mojave, and Todd has been excellent. Thank you, Todd. He's been phenomenal working with us. And we just want the opportunity because we're looking long term and to have that type of relation. And there may be some referrals to us that we can actually work together on.
But to your question, yes, we would consider a larger building. Part of the drawings on this building that we showed you is the ability to add. We could go up. I think 85 feet is the maximum that we can.
There's just a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah.
I think more than
Yes.
your first exposure to this that you see. I'm a native from here, and I've seen it for years, and just shake my head. We're so successful out here. Why can't we get it beyond the outside of the fence? And I'm not asking you to look at that area, but again, there's a disconnect somewhere. And to Bob's point, we got to be careful about outside development because homeowners and housing tracts do tend to bring encroachment on airports, and that's the number one enemy of airports is encroachment.
Okay.
So we have to be careful in that area. In your particular case, I think it's very compatible, and I would encourage you to move forward.
I'm done now.
Just for full disclosure, I would like to bring up the fact that I should have described this beforehand. In our pursuit for developing these types of facilities and amenities, I was reaching out to the folks at the Economic Development Agency who actually recommended us to Pinnacle. Upon contacting Pinnacle, Pinnacle recommended us to Alvin and the folks at Goldpoint. Also had a conversation with Alexia Saveda, and Alexia Saveda, who's also in economic development. She also directed us to Goldpoint. So, I realize level of experience is one of those things that is definitely a metric for selecting an entity. At the same time, these folks do have a solid background as far as supporters in the economic development realm that definitely believe in them. So with that being said, I think it's worth continuing down this path.
Just to clarify, this was KADC, the current economic development?
The Economic Development Agency, state.
Oh, state, okay. Yeah, I'm very encouraged and supportive. I mean, any other questions, Bob or Bill?
None for me.
Okay, would the public have any questions? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next we have a board of directors. This portion meeting is there for board of members to comment on items not on the agenda. Any comments?
I have a question. I got a letter recently, a phone conversation from a gentleman that used to run a business here, the chemical plant up, and his son's from Purdue, and he sent me a TV. He'd probably go to work for tomorrow. But what the kid's looking for, and I get questions on this all the time, for people looking for internships. And in the past, that hasn't been a very fertile field at this airport for whatever reasons. Any of you know of the businesses on the airport, especially aerospace, rockets, that sort of thing, that would be interested in in interns?
Yeah, so Scale Composites, Straddle Launch both do have internship programs, and there might be others. I think Virgin Galactic does as well.
That is it's my fault. What we need to do is do a better job of coordinating those tasks on the airfield with our tenants, regardless of how small or irrelevant we think they are. What we don't realize is it could really, regardless of how irrelevant the task is to us, it could really mess with somebody else's flight test campaign. That's what I'm taking away from this. So going forward, we're going to make a greater effort to get that information out, like I said, regardless of the relevancy of that project and the work and as far as the schedule when it's going to be done. And hopefully that will help our tenants plan and prevent any further issues.
You currently have what, a quarterly meeting?
Yes, sir.
With
Yes, sir, we do.
tenants?
But we also try to get that information out as it occurs, as it happens.
I understand. Okay. All right. Thank you. Public comments. Public may comment on items not on the agenda. Are there any public comments out there? All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. We'll move into closed session. Anybody that is calling in wants to remain, we'll put you in the waiting room. And oh, sorry. Go ahead. Somebody's heard somebody say something. Are there any comments? All right. None